Hey everybody, today I'm going to be reviewing something really neat. This is a really massive 1/8 scale Monster Amphibious Truck. It's by Zingo Racing is the name of the company. I'm not really familiar with them, and they may be new. But just really big, these huge tires that are kind of squishy. Of course, it gives it the buoyancy when you're driving across the water. Just massive. It's got these spring shocks. They are independent suspension on each side. It does not have actual front steering. It uses tank controls, which we'll get to in a minute. But it makes sense for a truck this size, especially considering that it's like, you know, $60, $70. It's not real expensive. Just a really fun and neat truck for, you know, a kid, especially really a kid of any age, because I consider myself a big kid. You do have to attach these on the side here, these I guess you call them oars, like the paddles, I guess you'd say, more like paddles, on all the wheels, and that allows it so it can move through the water. So the paddles you just attach on all 4 wheels. I don't know why they didn't just include it in the packaging with them on, but it could have just had to be with it the way they had it packaged. You know, the paddles it didn't fit into the packaging properly because they don't get in the way at all when you're driving it. So I went ahead and I just leave them on, so that gives you, you know, a good, you know, move it to the water. This one here looks just a little bit loose, so I need to make sure I tighten this one up before the run. It may come a little loose while driving it, but just a really big, neat looking truck. I think it also comes in yellow. They call it the Wolf Spider, but it also says on here, you know, the N150 Beast 4x4, you know, born to race. It says here on the back. Extreme Work RC, it says on the front. It doesn't actually say Wolf Spider anywhere on the actual body, but it does say it, I think, on the packaging and on the GearBest website. The box is really massive, and it's almost impossible to get it out without destroying it. So that's why I don't have the box here on the table. It was just too difficult to preserve the box and get the car out of the box. It uses two 280 size brush motors. So it's dual 280s. So you can kind of see up on the body here, this Lexan body will come off. It's got the cotter pins, but it's all enclosed, so it's waterproof. So I don't know exactly where they are, but I'm sure it's one motor that drives probably each side, rather than lots of times you see them, one set will drive the front and one will drive the rear, like in old Clodbusters. You know, Tamai used a dual motor, but because this has tank steering and it runs wheels on each side, I'm thinking that, you know, a 280 motor runs one side and another 280 motor runs the other side, and it gives it pretty good power with the 4x4. It runs really well, and it goes right into the water really well. It's of course slower in the water. I think the more you run it in the water, probably the more you'll shorten your run time, because those paddles and the resistance in the water, you know, is going to use more battery power. But really a neat truck. My daughter absolutely loves it. It's absolutely huge and just really fun. It uses this large nickel cadmium AA battery, rechargeable packs, 500 milliamp, 12 volt. It uses the old Tamiya connector on it. So it's old school when it comes to, you know, the battery. It doesn't use the LiPo, but you know, it's still really good. These are still dependable battery packs. Just make sure you drain them all the way down so you don't, you know, create a memory in the cells. But it works just fine. Now I have a Tamiya connector on my hobby grade, my IMAX charger, so I use that to charge. Just make sure if you do use the hobby grade, you know, you use a low amp. I use 0.5 amps. If you use too high amps, the battery pack will get scalding hot. That happened on another one. It didn't happen on this one. The stock charger that comes with it, of course, has a Tamiya connector. It says it outputs at 250 milliamps, so that'd be like 0.25 amps, which on most hobby grades, you know, it's either 0.2 or 0.3. So charging at 0.5, I'm able to charge it quicker because it takes about 3 hours to charge using this. So it's a very slow charge. So if you have hobby grade and you got a Tamiya connector, go with that and charge it, you know, 0.5 or somewhere around there, and you'll charge this thing up a lot quicker. It also comes with a little Phillips screwdriver. That's for putting on the paddles. Like I said, I need to tighten this one up. And it comes with the controller. Now the controller looks like a real toy grade with this, you know, flimsy bendable antenna. and stuff, but it still is 2.4 gigahertz, so it does still have the digital, you know, the frequency, and it gives it much better range than the old school toy ones you used to see like at Walmart and stuff. It also does come with a 9-volt battery here, which is very unusual for it to come with a battery to power the controller. But the 9-volt is also kind of old school too. The toys always just use the 9-volt battery in them. And I just turn it on there and it binds. Like I said, it's tank controls, so you know, you're gonna push up to go forward and back, and then to turn right and left, you have to use both of them like this. So real simple controls. But if for a kid, you know, the tank controls could be a little bit confusing. So it may take them a little while to get used to that. But once they do, they'll be fine. It's just not your traditional throttle and right left steering, because it doesn't have the ability to turn right and left without the tank controls type. So that's why they did that. So just overall, neat truck. The battery goes down here in the bottom. You have to open up, take these tabs and move them, and take a Phillips screwdriver and take, it comes with it, you know, and take that out. And this has a seal around it to keep the water out, and the battery goes in here sideways and connects. It's a little bit of a tight fit, but once you get it, there's an area off to the side here for the Tamiya connector. Get it in there and get it tight, and it's just fine. I had no water in it when I ran it, because I ran this quite a bit in the pool. And here's the on and off switch here that is sealed. It slides back and forth to turn it on and off. So I really like this a lot. The back here has this big bumper. You can take this bumper off, and when you take that bumper off, when you go back and forward, it will allow it to ride up on its back. And of course, it looks high here because of the bumper, and you can spin around and do circles on the back tires if you do remove the back bumper. I've left it on because to me that's not that neat of a thing. I mean, some people might like it. I just like driving it around on the grass and into the water and giving the extra, you know, protection of the rear bumper. But you know, it still, you know, moves around nicely, and you know, I think it'll kind of ride a wheelie a little bit anyway. It's just not going to be able to hold it, maintain it, and flip all the way on its back. So I think we covered everything. There's not a whole lot to cover. It's a really neat truck. So I think we'll go ahead and that now, and we'll move on out to the driver view. Okay, I got the Zingo 1/8 scale amphibious truck here bound up, and Corey's here today helping me. We're going to try to drive it into the pool and maybe get a little footage from another action cam. Kind of underwater a little bit. The pool's really cold, so we're not going to be getting in the pool today to get any real true underwater footage. So let's go ahead and we'll take it out here. It does have these tank controls, so I'm not going to be real precise with my driving. It really spins in place because of these tank controls. So like I said, it's not real precise controls for that reason, but that's to be expected. You can't expect a servo with front steering on a vehicle at this price with those huge tires. Just means it's very difficult to try to steer with a servo on this vehicle. I've got the paddles attached, so we'll just drive it here into the water here in just a moment. So not a super fast truck, but for 1/8 scale, you can't expect it to be too quick. Okay, let's just drive it off into the water here. My pool pump's going, so at times here they'll get pushed around by the jets. So I probably should have turned the jets off. And just use the one steering here to turn it around and go back the other way. I do think that you get a longer run time on the ground, I think in the water with the paddles. That it's all that resistance from the paddles is probably shortens the run time somewhat. But it runs along good. Those big tires have a lot of buoyancy, and the paddles seem to work well to move it along. It's just not going to be fast at all. Now I cannot drive it out of the pool here because it's just, you know, the water level's not high enough. I can drive it up here on my steps, and then I just pull it on out of the water that way, and then it's ready to go back onto land. So as you can see, I gotta lift it up out of the pool because it doesn't have the you know, it doesn't have the ability to drive out of my pool. But if you took this to a lake or a pond, you should be able to drive it right out of the water and right up onto the shore. Though I would be worried about if you're in a climate like here, we get a lot of seaweed. You know, it's not really seaweed, but pond scum we call it. You're certainly going to get that caught up in the paddles, so you got to be careful of that. But it works really well in my pool. As to the drive time, if you charge it the nickel cadmium and you immediately use it, you know, I was probably around 10 minutes. I didn't get an exact time. But you let that nickel cadmium sit, and then it's not going to drive as long. Nickel cadmiums are just finickier about their drive times, and when you let the battery sit. It's getting pushed there by my return jets. Just gonna kind of turn it around. But I think, you know, considering that this is around $60, I want to think, and it's so big, and it has the ability to drive on land and in the water, you know, that this would be a really good toy for a younger kid. You know, I think this would make a good toy. It's not super fast. You're not going to bust it real easy. Now I don't have the rear, as I mentioned earlier, I don't have the rear bumper off on this one. But if you remove this rear bumper, then you can actually get the ride up on its back and spin around standing straight up. So that's something that you can to consider. So going up this hill, you can see it's getting a little bit it's having a little trouble because it just doesn't have a ton of power. And I think that's pretty much, that might be getting close to the end of the battery there. Doesn't seem to be going too quick now, so. Anyway, I think that should be enough to show what this big truck can do. You know, it's not a super long driver. You know, I would probably advise getting a aftermarket charger for nickel cadmium batteries, because the wall charger, I'm not sure if it puts out the exact voltage you really want for this thing to fully charge it. And make sure you run it right after you charge up the battery too. Don't let that nickel cadmium sit a few days and don't leave it plugged in. But overall, it's not bad. And fun for a kid, and on-road and off-road and water. So I said, overall, I think it's not too bad. So thanks a lot for watching, and have a good day, and be sure to subscribe if you're not a subscriber.
The power of the dark side.